Welcome, everyone. This is the start of a new series of deep dives.
Yeah, we're going to be tackling a pretty interesting topic in Canadian youth volleyball.
We are. It's really about these two sort of main ways of thinking.
Right. Do you stick with the standard game, the one everyone knows?
Exactly. Or do you adapt it, change the rules for the younger players?
And host speaker, you mentioned before we started that for you, our listener, you tend to fall into that first group.
That's right. The perspective that the game should be consistent, played the same way no matter the age.
And that's a totally valid stance. There's definitely logic behind wanting that consistency for development.
Absolutely. So, over these next few chats, our goal really is just to explore both sides properly.
Look at the arguments, the considerations.
Yeah, drawing on what's out there, we'll look at documents from organizations like USA Volleyball, the Canadian Elite Academy.
Different coaching ideas, general youth sport guidelines too.
Right. So for this first discussion, let's just try and lay some groundwork. What are the key areas we even need to talk about when we discuss changing rules in youth volleyball?
Okay, well, a huge one, always in youth sports, is athlete well-being.
You mean safety
Yeah.
and like making sure everyone feels included.
Exactly. Safety and inclusivity. You see it right away with USA Volleyball.
Oh, yeah.
Their mission statement talks about building and supporting a safe, inclusive, positive volleyball experience. That's pretty foundational.
It is. It sets a standard, doesn't it? A baseline expectation.
And they back it up. They have really strict policies, like zero tolerance for harassment at their big events.
Towards anyone involved, officials, players, coaches.
Spectators, too.
Yeah.
It underlines that creating a positive environment is crucial.
That's a really good point. It kind of makes you think, how does this connect directly to rule changes?
Well, maybe it suggested the positive experience isn't just about the rules themselves.
Right. It's also about the culture, the
Yeah.
behavior, respect.
Exactly. Whether you use standard rules or modified ones, that commitment to safety and respect has to be there. It's non-negotiable.
Okay. So that's the environment piece. What about the actual playing? Skill development and how kids progress? That seems central to the rules debate.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Canadian Elite Academy has an interesting approach here.
With their different tiers.
Yeah, exactly. They have levels starting from like total beginners, they call them next gen, elementary.
Right up to the more experienced players, high
Yeah.
school elite.
Correct. And what's interesting is how they structure access.
How so?
Well, those early tiers, next gen up to what they call advanced, they're open. No real restrictions.
So anyone can join based on sort of where they feel they fit.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's only when you get to the elite level that they require specific qualifications, skills, experience.
So that structure already acknowledges different starting points and paces.
It does. So when you think about changing rules,
Hmm.
say for those elementary groups, you have to ask how that impacts moving up.
Does it help them get the basics faster? Or does it maybe create a hurdle later when they have to switch back to standard rules?
Those are the million-dollar questions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Could standard rules be too much too soon for some? Or are modified rules just delaying the inevitable?
It's tricky. Does the Academy material give any clues about their thinking?
Well, they mentioned their advanced level focuses on refining skills for kids who already get the gameplay and strategy,
Okay.
which could imply that maybe building that initial understanding, perhaps with slightly different rules, helps prepare them for more competitive play later. It's an interpretation, though.
Okay, that makes sense. This whole idea of progression naturally leads into long-term athlete development,
Yeah,
LTAD.
LTAD. You hear that term everywhere in youth sports now.
What's the core idea in the context of volleyball here?
Volleyball Canada defines it as basically a long-term view, sustained and progressive raising of capacity over 10 years or more.
So it's not just about this season or next year, it's the whole journey.
Exactly. Keeping people involved in the sport, giving them good programs, and thinking about their actual development stage.
Not just how old they are chronologically.
Precisely. It emphasizes biological and training age. Kids mature differently, physically and skill-wise, even if they were born in the same year.
So how does LTAD relate to our rules debate? It seems like you could use it to argue either side.
You absolutely could. You could say, well, LTAD demands we adapt the game for younger developmental stages to keep them engaged. That's progressive.
Or you could argue that for long-term success at higher levels, LTAD means you need consistency. Stick to the standard rules to prepare them properly down the line.
Exactly. LTAD provides the framework, the philosophy, but how you apply it.
Yeah.
That's where the debate really lies. Sticking to standard versus adapting.
Okay. Let's pivot a bit. What about the actual competitions? The structure of leagues and tournaments?
Yeah, looking at how things are organized can be insightful. Take the USAV Girls Junior Nationals, the GJNC.
What about it?
They have really strict age definitions. Set for the whole season, no appeals.
Creates clear categories then.
Very clear. And they use those one-year bands, 12U, 13U, 14U.
Which seems like one way to handle different development rates, right? Even with standard rule.
It is. You're competing against kids much closer to your own physical and likely skill level.
So maybe more granular age groups in Canada could be part of the solution, offering balanced play without changing the game itself.
It's definitely an option to consider. It allows for early developers, late developers, gives everyone a better chance to compete appropriately.
Something else mentioned in that Volleyball Canada LTAD info was athletes with a disability.
Right. It notes there aren't specific, separate standing volleyball leagues or championships for them in Canada.
They're integrated into the able-bodied game.
Which brings up another layer to the standard game idea. How does integration work best? Does the standard game present unique challenges, or is integration the ideal?
That's a complex aspect, ensuring inclusivity for everyone, regardless of ability, within whatever structure exists.
It really is. It requires careful thought.
Okay, let's shift to coaching, the philosophies coaches bring. That must influence this whole discussion.
Hugely. And there's an interesting take in a book by Dr. Darren Cannell, Coaching Sports to Internet Brats.
Catchy title. What's the gist?
He contrasts sports with, like, online gaming.
Instant gratification versus delayed gratification.
Exactly. Games often give quick rewards. Sports usually take patience, sustained effort before you see big results.
It feels very relevant today. Kids are so used to immediate feedback online.
Right. So Cannell argues for coaching that sets the bar high, expects a lot, focuses on self-improvement.
Like being better today than you were yesterday, not just comparing yourself to others.
Precisely. It's about that internal drive, that commitment to getting better over time.
And he talks about earning things, right? Not just being given achievement.
Yes, that sense of accomplishment that comes from overcoming real challenges.
Which you could argue lines up more with maintaining standard rules. You face the real game, you earn your success within it.
From that perspective, yes. Modifying rules might be seen as lowering the bar. Though, again, the counter-argument is you need modifications to keep kids in the game long enough to face those later challenges.
It's always that balance, isn't it?
Always. Cannell also mentions teaching athletes how to think, not just what to think. Game sense, decision-making.
And that seems important regardless of the rule set you're using. Developing smart players.
Definitely. And underlying all this, especially for elementary ages, say 11 to 14, is remembering their physical development. Training, rules, everything needs to be age appropriate. Their bodies are still changing rapidly.
Good point. Okay, one last core area, fair play, sportsmanship.
The absolute bedrock. Integrity, respect, non-negotiables in any sport.
And everyone has a role, right? Coaches, officials, admins.
Everyone. Setting the tone, upholding the standards.
So how does the rules debate intersect with fairness? It feels like another area with two sides.
It is. You could say the fairest thing is a single standard set of rules for everyone, consistency across the board. But others might argue true fairness, especially for young kids, means adapting the game to their current level, making it accessible and equitable for their developmental stage.
So it really depends on how you define fair in this specific youth context, uniformity versus adaptation.
Exactly. That's the nuance we keep coming back to.
Okay, so let's try and summarize this first dive. We've basically outlined the two main camps in Canadian youth volleyball. Stick with the standard game or modify it for younger players.
Right.
And for you listening, acknowledging your preference for the standard game, we've touched on how things like safety, inclusivity, skill pathways,
LTAD principles, competition structures, coaching styles,
and fair play concepts all feed into this discussion. We've seen arguments that could support maintaining standards, drawing on things like consistency, earned achievement, preparation for higher levels.
And the sources we've glanced at definitely show there are strong points to consider on all sides. It's not a simple issue.
Not at all. So here's maybe the big question to leave you with for now. What should the main goal of youth volleyball in Canada actually be? Is it getting as many kids playing and having fun right now, possibly through modifications? Or is it more about that long-term pathway, developing players who adhere to the established game?
And critically, how do those potential goals line up with being fair, developing skills effectively, and including everyone?
Lots to think about there.
For sure.
We'll continue digging into this in our next deep dive. Maybe we'll look at some specific examples of rule changes and what impact they might have. Thanks for joining us.